As we prepare for a cinematic battle right around the corner, we're going to look at today's movies. We're going to talk about the new Indiana Jones film, what's on TV, and a lot more on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 193 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
I do want to talk a little bit about news that's not quite news at this point, which is the writer's strike, because you notice you're not hearing a whole lot about it.
Not hearing a thing.
Of course, it's still going on.
Or anything from the Actors Guild either, because that was the contract that ran out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, things have been on the back burner. Now, of course, a lot of the writers, like Adam Conover, who has been really one of the faces of the strike and has been putting a lot of stuff out about the strike, he's still trying to keep that in people's minds. At this point, it's gotten to be old news. Because of that, I feel like the news cycle's falling away from it for right now until something different happens and they go back to the table. And that's going to be a real danger for the writers, because if this falls off of the radar, then what happens at that point? But now we're getting to a place where things are starting to grind to a halt, although you do see a lot of news coming out right now, even just a little bit of news about anything that is being shot, anything that's being filmed at this point. They're putting out every little piece of news that you can get. Like, we've just got some pictures of Ryan Reynolds in his Deadpool.
Yes, how exciting is that?
No, it's definitely exciting for sure. And there was a news report, kind of a rumor, but apparently on the set of the new Captain America movie, Robert Downey Jr. was seen on set. Now, whether he was just visiting friends or if perhaps there is something going on there, who can say?
Hologram cameo.
Very possible. Or, of course, now we're in the multiverse, so maybe it's another version of Tony Stark, who can say?
A variant?
Yeah. But right now, it's like the big news is all these rumors. Going back to the Deadpool 3 rumors, there's talk about other X-Men from the old series being in the movie and having cameos. And basically the director's saying, hey, look, trust me, your minds are going to be blown. Don't worry.
No matter what.
Whatever it is, we're going to blow minds. It's going to be amazing. But it's right now, everybody's just grabbing onto whatever little bit of news they can get, because it is distracting from the fact that a lot of stuff is just drifting off. And you look at Marvel and all the TV stuff, after Echo and Loki season 2, everything else after that they were planning on doing has just basically just been put off to the side. Ironheart, Agatha Harkness, and the Coven of Chaos. I think there was something else that was supposed to be coming up, and that's gone now, or at least it's being delayed indefinitely, because even though the writer strike is not on the tip of everybody's mind at this point, and the news cycle is basically wait and see until something different happens, there's still this ticking time bomb, and we're going to have slowdowns that we're going to wind up having to deal with anyway. But the longer this goes on, the worse that's going to be.
Right.
And so that's going to be an interesting question of just how bad does this get?
Right, what's next?
Yeah. Right now, we are wringing out the last of what has been written. There's not anything coming anytime soon.
We've hit what has supposed to have been the blockbusters of the summer.
Yeah, and that has been something else, too.
Yeah,
It's
they
like,
just haven't. Every headline I see, this bombed, this bombed, this bombed. And it's movies that we were expecting just to be huge, like movies used to be, and they're just not.
Yeah, and depending on who you talk to, because there are a lot of people who have theories about why movies aren't doing very well this summer, depending on what your, I don't want to say your religion is, but if you feel that, if you don't like the way that some movies have been made because they got too many girls in them,
Okay.
or whatever you feel like Hollywood is doing wrong, that's the reason why this has been happening.
Okay.
And I don't know really if any of those reasons hold water. When you think about it, I just feel like maybe there was this big inrush of people watching movies because, of course, after COVID,
Right.
Everybody wanted to get out of their house.
And they realized their house was nice. And it was nice sitting at home and streaming things. And
Yeah.
that was a nice experience being at the movies.
Yeah, because it didn't take all that long for movies to wind up on streaming, although apparently Disney is going to be holding off on movies longer now. But just the fact that going to see a film, it was a great experience, but it was really expensive to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Besides driving there and spending money on the ticket and spending $8 on a bottle of water and $7 on a 50-cent bag of popcorn. And I think people are just over it at this point.
At one time, it was an event to go there, a treat, an event. And now it's just not as exciting as it once was.
And certainly in this economy, as prices continue to rise, we are now getting to a place where people just don't have that kind of disposable income. And since they're paying for streaming anyway, they're like, I'll wait 6 months.
I'll just wait. Yeah.
I'll just wait.
I'm in that camp. That's where I set up my fire. That's the camp I'm in.
Yep.
That's the religion of me.
Yeah. And where you sit there and eating your s'mores that didn't cost you $12.
Yep.
And I get it. Honestly, for me, even though I do still go to the movies, I tend to go on the Tuesdays when I can get a $5 movie ticket.
Right.
And speaking of which, let's talk Indiana Jones, that big, massive bomb of a movie.
Right? That was one that I saw the headline, Why Dial of Destiny Bombed. And I'm like, really? That too?
Well, here's the thing about it. And I did put up a short review of this movie on my YouTube channel. It was like, I understood why this was going to bomb, but also that I enjoyed the movie and I didn't regret having seen it. I'm not saying this was a bad film. It was a $300 million film before advertising. It would have been very difficult for any movie with a $300 million budget to make its money back. It would have to do gangbusters.
Yeah.
And movies are just not doing gangbusters this year. They're just not. I think the big success of the year is going to be the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think that's going to be the one that really is going to be that massive movie that everyone's going to be talking about, followed closely behind by Spider-Man.
Across the Spider-Verse,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Besides that, I think everything else is going to be rough.
Yep.
And I hate to say this.
I think Barbie might hit it.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see next week.
Actually, it's the 21st.
21st, okay.
And since we're talking about this and we're talking about cinema, there's this big battle that's brewing on the 21st between Barbie and Oppenheimer. Because they both...
Barbie's going to win. Barbie is going to win. Come on.
Barbie ain't got no nukes.
That's the thing. Everyone loves Barbie. Not everyone loves nuclear war. Unless it's Matthew Broderick.
True enough.
How about a game of thermonuclear war?
Oh, I remember that.
Barbie is everything. Nuclear war is nuclear war, but Barbie is everything.
What's going to be interesting and why a lot of people are pitting these two movies against each other is because they're so different.
Yeah, one is obviously Oscar bait.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this movie is. It screams in big, bold, neon flashing signs. Oscars right here. It's the biopic. It's the period drama. It's going to get nominated for all the costumes, even though we have Barbie that should be nominated for the costumes.
I thought you were talking about Barbie. I'm sorry. I thought that was the Oscar bait. I'm sorry. I missed that. But yeah, I would say Barbie's probably going to wind up getting the costumes. Honestly, I think so.
If it doesn't, it will break my heart. It will. Oh, Dune is coming out, but it's Barbie.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's going to be the thing. There have been some reports that there have been people who walked out of Oppenheimer because the first few minutes of the movie is so painful to watch that some people are like, I just can't. They're saying that in a lot of ways, this movie is like a horror film.
yeah.
And it's like a real one.
Especially for everyone who grew up in the 80s with that threat of nuclear war the day after tomorrow hanging over your head.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that was your monster in your closet. That was always nuclear wars any second now. The atom bomb. And
oh, yeah, the Cold War.
The Cold War, yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. And that may have been, especially with what we've all been going through with COVID these last few years, and that cloud that's still, in a real sense, hanging over all our heads. Maybe this is just not the movie people want to see. It's one thing to spend money to drive to a theater and spend all that money, But then to have to go through that on top of it all, I feel like people aren't going to want to do that. Now, the question's going to be, is Barbie going to do well? A lot of people are excited about that movie, and I'll have to say this. A lot of people weren't expecting a lot from Super Mario Brothers, and it did gangbusters.
Yeah, because it's for everyone. Parents who grew up playing the video game, and then their kids who grew up playing the next generation of the video game on Wii and the like, and everyone can relate to this movie. Everyone can have a great time at this movie. That's why I feel Barbie might have kind of an edge on that too. Everyone has that connection. Everyone can enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, and you can tell they spend a lot of time thinking about it. That whole deal where Barbie kicks her shoes off
Yes.
and her feet stay arched.
Yes.
This is going to be Barbie. And, of course, there's all that popularity of that toy, and you have people who were making this movie that were really into it. Even to the point where Margot Robbie said, if you want me to do this movie, I'll do it. But you got to give me the Barbie dream house with the slide on it.
Yes. Oh, amazing.
And that's why that's in the film. That was in her contract. She said, I want to do this movie, but I have to have the Barbie dream house or deal's off.
Right.
And so you get the Barbie dream house with the slide,
Yes.
with the slide on the side. They're not even playing. But I will say there is a level of terror arising in some moviegoers about this Barbie movie because, think about this. If Super Mario Brothers has done well, which it has, and Barbie does well, and everything else tanks, what are movies going to look like for the next few years?
Toys and dolls and all the family.
Yeah, and that's going to be about it. In fact, Mattel said that they're planning on running through their entire line of toys. They've already working on scripts for all of it.
Okay.
Of course, Masters of the Universe is going to be one of them. But literally every toy that they have any kind of intellectual property on, they said they're making movies. It might be Toy Story all next year.
Yep.
And especially with, like I said, superhero movies seem to be dying down a little bit, and especially because it's nearly impossible to make one of these movies without a huge budget. If movies are not doing well, that means you have to start looking at smaller budget movies, which of course are horror movies.
Yes.
So there's that possibility. We just had an announcement, The Nun Part 2.
Yes.
Insidious, The Red Door.
Yep.
We're seeing some horror movies, and if they start doing well, maybe they will become a part of Hollywood's restructuring to try to get back on track. But if these horror movies just do decently well, if they make their money back, that'll be good. But if they don't do well, then it's toys and video games for a while.
Right.
Assuming they can get someone to write these movies.
I have hopes for Insidious and The Nun just because of the franchises that they are a part of. And they have that kind of cult following that a lot of horror movies have. So that could be a plus. But then again, those members in that society wouldn't mind waiting like me. They I can wait on it to find out, and it won't hurt them. But I'm holding out hope for those.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens. But I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh yeah,
because I did see it this weekend, and I should say Tuesday, which was part of our weekend because it was 4th of July. But I did get a chance to see it, and as I said before, it was a movie that I enjoyed watching. It's not the kind of movie that you're going to watch if you've never seen Indiana Jones before, and it certainly does feel like this is the end.
Okay.
They have ended this series. At this point, I feel like Harrison Ford doesn't want to do it anymore. I'm not sure we really want to see any more of these, but I can tell you, I see where $300 million went because the de-aging they did on Harrison Ford was incredible.
Really?
Yeah. You could certainly tell a difference between that and The Flash. Where The Flash was Uncanny Valley, this was absolutely perfect. You could not tell.
Okay, so spoiler alert, I have to know, what is the Dial of Destiny? Is it the Spear of Destiny that turned into a compass or something? What is it?
The Spear of Destiny was involved.
Okay.
It was the MacGuffin right at the beginning because you go back to World War II and the Nazis and Hitler, they're about ready to lose the war, but Hitler's still collecting stuff. And they have what they believe is the Spear of Destiny, and Indiana Jones goes after it in finding and basically chasing down this train and having this classic Indiana Jones chase
On a train?
on a train.
Like the Cross of Coronata?
Yeah, something like that.
Very Last Crusade had this whole mini movie before the real movie.
Yeah. But again, not going into spoilers about the Spear of Destiny, but they find this dial of legend created by the mathematician Archimedes.
Ooh, okay.
Who discovered that the planets didn't move in a synchronous orbit. He realized that through mathematics, he could predict maybe not just the turning of the planets, but also different events, storms, all kinds of stuff. And then as he continued to do his equations, he realized not only could he make predictions about the universe, but also time itself.
Okay.
Because he discovered that at certain times, the fabric of time itself became weak and you could time travel.
Okay.
And this dial would basically tell you when and where these fissures in time would appear.
Ooh, this is kind of Stephen King-ish.
Yeah.
Look for thinnies.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's basically the premise of it. And we have our villain who wants the dial. And I guess we'll do a little bit of a spoiler on here, but basically he was a Nazi scientist who could see that they were losing the war. And he was, like a lot of Nazi scientists,
Boys from Brazil.
Yeah, so he basically helped build the Apollo rocket. They used his knowledge to do that. And so the movie takes place in 1969. The astronauts have just gotten back from the moon, and he's looking for this dial. He had it back in Nazi Germany, and of course it was taken from him. Indiana Jones had it, and so he's trying to find it because what he wants to do is go back in time, kill Hitler, and take over. Because he considered Hitler, he said the war was lost because of Hitler. And he figured that if he could kill Hitler and take his place, not only would he be a better leader than Hitler was, but he also knew where the Germans went wrong. Plus, now that he had worked on the Apollo project, and it was his work, but he had a funding, his war rockets would be a heck of a lot better. Yeah. And they would work.
Yep.
And so he figured he can get things back on track. So that was basically it. And there were a lot of, we'll say, twists and turns, as you expect. I do have to say, though, one thing that kind of bothered me about this movie and also has bothered me about Secret Invasion, which we'll talk about next, there's this theme of, oh, I'm getting too old. I can't do this stuff anymore. And I'm of the age that I'm feeling that way now, and I don't want to be reminded of it at all. I'm getting old now, and I don't want to think about it too much. But there is that idea of retiring and having to go back and do stuff you used to be able to do pretty well, and you don't do so well anymore.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that it does the character a lot of justice. Certainly at Harrison Ford's age, he was showing his age, but the story required that he did that. One thing I can definitely tell you about this movie is that they had learned some things from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And one thing they wanted you to be absolutely sure of was Shia LaBeouf was not coming back. Oh. They made absolutely sure you understood that Shia LaBeouf was not going to be a part of this movie.
Wow.
In 1969, Vietnam, they made sure he wasn't coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, they fridged Indy's son. And of course, that put a big rift between him and Marion, and that's why she wasn't involved. Because they were getting a divorce.
Yeah.
So basically, by fridging Shia LaBeouf's character, they were able to motivate a lot of what was going on in this movie. But yeah, they just wanted you to be sure right off the bat, no, you're not going to see him again. Trust me on this. Even when they had the whole time travel issue about it. No, we're not going to go back in time and bring him back. No, we're not. Don't worry. We read the comments. But again, it's a movie that I enjoyed watching. I was glad that I saw it. I can't say that for all movies, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, for example, but it was certainly a movie that I enjoyed watching. It certainly does feel like the end. I feel like you wouldn't want to do another movie.
Unless it was a complete reboot, right?
I'm not going to say that because I'm not trying to get burned at the stake. But certainly with Harrison Ford, I would say, yeah, this should be about it. I feel that he's of the same mind. He doesn't want to do any more Indiana Jones movies. I'm not sure I'd want to see him do any more Indiana Jones movies. This is, I feel like, a fitting end to everything. That being said, I don't feel like this is the movie you absolutely have to go to the theater to see. Now, I saw it in a theater full of people, and that was an enjoyable experience. I just don't feel like, if you're questioning whether or not you should hop in your car and spend all that money to see it, no. Okay. I don't feel that way. I feel like this is something you'll be perfectly fine wait until streaming. I never thought I would say that about an Indiana Jones movie. Because, again, for me, Indiana Jones was a big deal. It was the first movie I ever reviewed, ever wrote a review for, my junior high school newspaper.
Aww.
It allowed me a chance to go see the movie because I didn't get to see a lot of movies as a kid in the theaters, and I had the excuse, this is for school, I have to do this.
Clever.
I love that movie, and I've got the chance to see it multiple times in the theater, and so I really enjoyed that. It was a part of a lot of our childhoods, and it's over, and I feel like that is appropriate.
Okay.
But before we go, let's talk about episode 3 of Secret Invasion. Now, you haven't seen any of this yet.
Nope.
One thing I can definitely tell you is now that we're halfway through it, I told you before I was a little bit worried about it. Now I'm a little bit more worried.
Oh, no.
Because it feels like it's going somewhere, but not very quickly. That's what's strange about it. There are some twists and turns, and you can see where they're going with the story. They're bringing out a piece of comic book canon of the Skrulls. Because one of the things that they spend a lot of time talking about is, what happens if the Avengers show up? What are we going to do? So they're like, they have powers, we need powers. Hence, Super Skrulls.
Ooh.
So they're going down the Super Skrulls. Yeah, they're going down that road. And
ooh, this could be chemical, like Bruce Banner. This could be
they're using a bunch of things. One of the things that
stones.
What they're using, part of what they're using is from Iron Man 3. You remember Extremis?
Oh,
yeah.
Our listeners can't see me making this injection gesture.
Yeah.
But I remember the injecting orange stuff.
Yeah. Apparently that's a part of it.
Okay.
And we've already seen that manifest itself in the show. And you're like, that's part of the plan. So they're going to be using that.
It's like their Compound V.
Yeah.
From the boys.
They're going down that road. But there was a twist at the end that, and I don't want to really spoil it, but I don't feel like it's a spoiler if you say it, though, because I feel like anybody who has any idea about this show at all are going to be like, of course they're going to do that, because you're dealing with Skrulls. You're dealing with who do you trust and who don't you trust. By now, it'd be like, of course they're going to make that person a Skrull. They've killed off yet another main character at this point, one that you're like, why are they doing that? Again, like I said, I feel like it's going somewhere. I just wish that the pacing was maybe a little more dramatic. It does feel very much like a slow burn. And I think a lot of that may have been because of shows like Andor, where it was considered a slow burn and more of a personality piece. But that worked really well, where at this point, I'm wondering if it's going to work quite as well with Secret Invasion. I would like to see them pick up the pace by the next episode. I would hope things start to come to a head, because it just feels like things are creeping along. I want my spy thriller to be thrilling. And like I said, there's some mysteries involved, but that's about it. And that worries me because they need to go somewhere, and they only have 3 more episodes left. I'm sticking with it. I'm hanging in there. I'm hoping it goes somewhere, but I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
But with that said, we come to the end of episode 193. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.